A new study published claims that marijuana could cause harmful changes in the brain, even if you're a casual toker. Now, this study published in the Journal of Neuroscience says that casual marijuana smokers apparently had showed significant abnormalities in the brain regions important to motivation and emotion. Now, this study analyzed 20 pot smokers and 20 non-pot smokers between the ages of 18 and 25 and found that even those who smoked once a week showed brain abnormalities, while larger changes were seen in those who smoked more. Now, the researchers say in this study, the scientists compared the size, shape, and density of something called the nucleus accumbens and the amygdala. Now, that controls emotion. Now, those who had smoked had abnormally large nucleus accumbens, and that's, of course, that area of the brain controls pleasure, reward, and reinforcement learning. So basically, this study says that in the brains of marijuana users, the natural rewards may be less satisfying, basically nudging you towards having to do more of the drug to get satisfied. Now, I want to ask you guys, are you buying this study? What do you think? And the obvious question is, should the study have any bearing at all in the push for marijuana legalization?
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally buying the study. It's in a peer-reviewed journal. I'm not buying any conclusions that may be drawn by the media when they report on a peer-reviewed journal story, which they do every time they do it. I'm not buying that. But, I mean, yeah, do I think the methods in the study are solid? Or yeah, that's fine. I just don't know that what the kind of the slant that a lot of articles have taken on this is that this proves weed is bad. Like, that's not what the journal's saying. Like, that's not what the article's about. This article is not about whether or not weed has medicinal properties, because the people in the study were specifically, they had to be healthy people. Like, the idea was to just take from the quote unquote normal, and I'm not quoting the article, that's me, that's not a scientific term, the normal population, you know, does weed have it? It's not even say does weed have a negative effect, it's just does weed do something to the brain? For all we know, the abnormalities could result in great motivation or whatever. All the study shows is that, hey, recreational pot use, if you have no other existing issues, does cause a chemical change in your brain. And that was my point a little while back. One of my first times that you guys let me on the show, and thanks for not stopping me, was just that, like, hey, it's awful that we don't allow weed to be studied. We need to change that. But because it's not been studied, the same things that apply to it being horrible apply to it being great. Like, without the information, we don't know that. Like, don't read a Facebook meme and just treat it like the gospel, or what probably carries more weight for our viewers, treat it like a peer-reviewed journal article. It's a Facebook meme. We need to study this. And maybe one reason why the study is so small is because of our stupid restrictive laws. Maybe that's why there were only 40 people. So, like, change it. Like, this article, this study just confirms everything I said before, that before you denounce or worship something, find out what it actually does. Be careful. We're dumping stuff into our bodies that changes the chemical reactions in our bodies. That's a big deal. Let's study it before we weigh on either side.
And I want to get into some of those points later, but Stephen, you should have at it first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's peer-reviewed, so it's relatively sound kind of science. With only, I consider kind of 40 members of the public quite a small sample group. If it was up to 400, then I'd be like, okay, well, that's definitely kind of true, kind of their results that they've come out with. I mean, the study's basically saying marijuana has some effect on the brain. Well, no shit. Of course it has some effect on the brain. And of course this study isn't saying it has a negative effect or it has a positive effect, or whether it's a kind of a long-term lasting effect, like it'll permanently change the structure of your brain and the layout of your brain. It's not saying that at all. All this small study is saying is that, yeah, marijuana does influence you a bit, but I know that you're probably going to get onto now. So does so many other things have an influence on your brain.
Right. And this article actually specifically, it did say that it was more trending on the negative, which is why I sort of really don't buy this study entirely. I mean, it is the science, right? And it is a peer-reviewed study. But remember, it's only one study, and it was only done with 40 people over a short period of time. So we don't know what the long-term ramifications will still be, and as what happens in a lot of in scientific journals, a new study may come along and say, okay, we were wrong about this, so now we need to change it. And look, this could be debunked, and even if it's not, there also have been shown to be a lot of benefits. Now, as Jordan pointed out, there's some overhype, and I get that, right? But there are real benefits to cannabis, and I don't think that this study should outweigh that. And I certainly don't think that this one study should also be used as justification for keeping marijuana illegal. And that's the other part of this, right? Because we're still throwing people in prison for smoking it. So my overall point is that nothing in this study changes my position on marijuana. And it shouldn't change anybody else's either. The science says this, okay? It's fine. It can change your brain. But it's not the only thing that does change your brain. And think of all these pharmaceutical drugs out there that are made to change your brain chemistry. I mean, we have an industry built up on that. Think of antidepressants, antipsychotics. We've got so many drugs out there that do that, and they are perfectly legal. I mean, think of more examples. Alcohol changes your brain. Also, it harms your liver if you drink too much of it. Smoking changes your brain chemistry. It also hurts your lungs, nose, throat, and increases your cancer risk. But you don't see any of these put on a scheduled drug list, right? And so, look, that's why I'm saying we shouldn't have marijuana on the Schedule 1 list either.
Right, and I do want to show one thing that the study did conclude. That you said this. It not only does it seem to imply that there are some negatives to these changes, it flat out it draws one conclusion for a negative. So I do want to temper what I said earlier a little bit. But this is, so maybe you guys are right, maybe the sample size isn't big enough, but within the sample size in the peer-reviewed article, one thing that they did show, and I don't think this is something that's going to really surprise people, I think, what we kind of think about weed kind of enforces this, is that one thing that it does, one potential negative to weed, is that one of the enlarged parts of the brain that we see is the part that controls pleasure, reward, and reinforced learning. So the part of the brain that processes things you like, things you want to get more of, and the habits you develop gets made bigger. This study showed an enlargement there. And a quote from the actual author of the article says that drugs of abuse, so not just weed, drugs of abuse. So that's going to include alcohol, other drugs that are regulated, drugs that aren't. Drugs of abuse cause more dopamine release than natural rewards like food, sex, and social interaction. So these things that are good for the species, eating, getting out, meeting people, procreating, carrying the species on, they create a reward in your brain. Drugs do more of it, so you're conditioned to go for the drug rather than these things. But that's true of all these. Again, the hypocrisy is there. That's true of caffeine. That's true of alcohol. That's true of all these other drugs we have no problem with. So the answer then is to not treat this thing worse than the other one, and the answer is not to let everybody have it, because we don't let everybody have alcohol. We have regulations around alcohol. So let's regulate weed and treat it like what it is, and go about our merry way.
Yeah, I mean, what's going to happen? You're going to have Nancy Grace is going to go on a HLN show and go, new study shows up, weed causes brain damage and it's going to kill you and it's going to kill your kids. And it's like, yeah, but alcohol causes brain damage. And judging by a lot of what Nancy Grace has said, I think she's had quite a lot to drink in her lifetime. But exactly to your point, caffeine, pharmaceutical drugs, alcohol, they all have a kind of a measured negative impact on the chemical balance in your brain. But it doesn't mean that we ban all of them. Yeah, we don't let kids go out and buy kind of prescription drugs on their own. We don't let kids go and drink alcohol on their own. Okay, we do kind of let them have caffeine, but that's really not necessarily in the same category as things like alcohol and prescription drugs. But you're supposed to be in the land of the free to be able to choose what you do with your own body, and marijuana is only going to affect you. And of course, people like Nancy Grace and other morons in that same camp say, yeah, but if you get behind the kind of the wheel of a car after you've been smoking, then you can have a negative impact on other people's lives. Yeah, same with alcohol, same with prescription drugs. Marijuana is in exactly the same category, and you can make an argument about whether it's maybe slightly kind of more damaging for you or maybe has slightly better medicinal effects. I mean, it definitely has more medicinal effects than alcohol does, that's for sure. So I don't see how anyone can make any argument against completely banning and making marijuana illegal unless they want to throw alcohol in exactly the same category, you either put both in the same camp, or you kind of put them both in the legal camp. You can't have one in either camp. You've got to make a decision. That's what a lot of people don't seem to understand yet.
And right, and I want to go back to a point that Jordan was making earlier about some of the articles that are coming out about this study. And you've got basically two different types of articles coming out. You've got the ones that are, saying that, oh my God, pot is the devil, it's going to kill you and your kids, right? As you were saying earlier. And then there's the ones that, oh, so what, whatever, pot is still great, right? And you really have to kind of draw where are the facts, right? And you have to look at the facts and look at what we have now and make an informed decision. And just like alcohol and just like prescription drugs, weed is really no different, and it has actually more benefits than alcohol. So when you look into the facts, you're going to realize those things. And if you ignore the hype from one side, and if you ignore the doom and gloom from the other side, you're going to naturally come to that middle ground where you say, okay, so it can change your brain, but so do these other things that are perfectly legal, so why don't we make it legal and regulated just like the other things? I mean, that's how things are supposed to work.
And how, why is this controversial? I mean, how can somebody listen to what you just said and be, offended by that? Because I guarantee you we're going to get YouTube comments on both sides. People are going to, call us fascists for suggesting that maybe weed isn't a cure-all, and people are going to, call us crazy drug addicts for suggesting it's not the devil. But what you just said is so reasonable. Let's study it. Let's learn about it. Let's take stupid laws that stop that from happening away so we can figure out what it is. And then we know it's got bad effects and we know it's got good effects. So let's regulate it like we do every other drug on the planet and make it as beneficial as we can.
But I think the most important thing that I would want done is that we stop throwing people in prison for smoking it. I think that
Absolutely.
would be that right there is the number one issue for me surrounding legalization. I don't smoke. I don't have really a dog in this fight, but I do think that we are wasting so much. We're wasting lives. We're wasting money. We're wasting, all this enforcement time. We're militarizing our police in order to do this stupid drug war, which doesn't work, which is just ridiculous. It's empowered the drug gangs, by the way, in Mexico. So now you've got these giant kingpins who are billionaires. We've created that. Guess what, America? We built that. So maybe stop doing that, okay? And make this thing legal, make this thing regulated, and let people make their own decisions based on the facts. If it does harm your memory long term, oh well. At least you knew that going into it. Let's let people make their own decisions and not throw them in prison for it.